Welcome to Episode 7. For over 100 years, the American colonies in Great Britain were like a family that lived in separate houses, but in the 1760s, that relationship began to fray. To the young people watching, have you ever felt like you were being treated like a child when you knew you were ready for more responsibility? That is exactly how the colonists felt. Today, we will look at the years leading up to 1776. It was a time of high taxes, loud protests, and deep uncertainty. But it was also the moment the Americans discovered something beautiful, that they were stronger when they stood together. Even in times of conflict, there was the hope of a new beginning. The cost of production. This trouble started with the war. The French and Indian War had just ended in 1763. Britain had won, but they were deeply in debt. To the king and parliament, it seemed only fair that the colonists pay their share for the soldiers who protected them. But to the colonists, the issue wasn't just the money, it was the principle. They had no representatives in the British Parliament. This gave birth to the famous cry, "No taxation without representation." They weren't trying to be difficult, they were trying to protect the idea that people should have a say in how they are governed. It reminds us that standing up for what is fair is the cornerstone of the American character. The Stamp Act and the Power of the Pen, 1765. In 1765, Britain passed the Stamp Act, requiring a tax on every piece of printed paper, newspapers, legal documents, even playing cards. This was the first time the colonies truly acted as one. Groups like the Sons of Liberty formed to protest, but the real power was in the non-importation agreements. Women, the Daughters of Liberty, stopped buying British cloth and tea, making homespun clothes instead. They turned their daily chores into a political statement. It shows us that you don't need a sword to make a difference. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is how you change how you shop and what you say. The Boston Tea Party, 1773. By 1773, tensions boiled over in Boston Harbor. To protest a monopoly on tea, a group of colonists disguised themselves and dumped 342 chests of British tea into the water. It's easy to look back and see this as a fun historical event, but at the time, it was an incredibly brave and dangerous act of civil disobedience. Britain responded with the Intolerable Acts, closing the port and taking away Massachusetts' right to govern itself. But instead of breaking the colonies, this move did the opposite. It made Virginia, Georgia, and Pennsylvania realize that a threat to one colony was a threat to all. It's a powerful lesson. When things get worse and more difficult, it often forces us to find allies in people we never expected. The First Continental Congress, 1774. September 1774, leaders from 12 colonies met in Philadelphia. This was the First Continental Congress. They weren't calling for independence yet. They were calling for their rights as British subjects. They wrote a Declaration of Rights and Grievances. For the first time, men like Patrick Henry said, "I am not a Virginian, but an American." This was the birth of a new identity. They were realizing that their shared values of liberty and justice were more important than their local differences. It reminds us that unity doesn't mean we are all the same. It means we are all moving in the same direction. As we finish today, think about the courage it took to speak truth to the most powerful empire in the world. To young people, the road to the rebellion was messy and scary. No one knew if it would work. But the colonists chose to believe in a future where their voices mattered. You live in the world they built with that belief. Next Saturday, the talking stops and the shot heard round the world begins as we enter the Revolutionary War. Until then, stand tall, speak your truth, and remember that you belong to a legacy of courage.